I think I speak for everyone when I say that no one ever expected a Slendytubby game with a full campaign and DLC. In part 1, we looked at how the series went from a meme to a real horror game. But what happens after that success is where things get strange. Slendytubbies 3 and its DLC don't just continue the series, they try to outgrow it. Bigger maps, more lore, more mechanics, and somehow, more audience. The question isn't whether Slendytubbies worked anymore, it's what is its future? If you haven't seen part 1, it's linked down below. But today, we're diving into how Slendytubbies survived long enough to become something much stranger. Hello everybody, my name is Backpack Comics and welcome to Internet Lore, the show where we look at a subject, game, or piece of internet history and find out all about it. Today, we will be looking at Slendytubbies 3. So what is Slendytubbies 3? What makes this game better than the last two? What's up with the DLC? Diving straight into the meat, Slendytubbies 3 released August 27th, 2017. Now, I actually know the least about this game compared to the rest. This game has, as stated earlier, a full campaign as well as multiple endings, a multiplayer that continues the story. Just how crazy. Getting into the story. I got the good ending, so we'll be retelling the story with this end as the result. After we get through the basis of the story, we will review the other endings. Chapter 0. This serves as a prequel to the happenings in Slendytubbies 1. For every chapter, there is a blip of exposition as the title screen. We find out that there are machines creating the Teletubbies. This process has continued for hundreds of years in a secret underground lair. Reminds me of a clip. The Guardian is set to monitor 4 Teletubbies, the ones we know that turn into monsters in the main games. The mainland is what their home is called. They are unaware they're being monitored. The Guardian, though, has a close bond with them after observing them for so many years, but again, the main 4 Teletubbies do not know the Guardian exists. During the very first bit of gameplay, holy shit, this looks so good. Opening to almost an end of Evangelion shot, we find that Lala has some sort of prophetic dream, knowing what is coming. After we gain entry to the dome, we find that the Tubby Custard machine is broken. Fixing it allows us to feed everyone. There are also timed dialogue options, making this feel sort of like a Telltale game. Oh, but just you wait. After eating a full meal, Tinky Winky leaves in the dead of night. We decide to follow and bring a friend. Dipsy does stay back at the dome, the green one. Do we know the names? You know, like Lala, yellow, Po, red, Dipsy green, Tinky Winky, purple. Yeah, wow, we did it. We go forth. Along the path we split up, to later find that Lala is dead. This is all, again, the origin story of how the brutal murders occurred. We are then sent into an action sequence where we have to, it's like a timed sequence, action sequence, timed action sequence. We have to do it correctly, and this took me way longer than I expected. Surprise, surprise, we all die. Chapter 1 marks the aftermath of the massacre that took place. Our goal as of now is to gain access to the satellite to get help, finding out the truth. The Guardian, of course, catches wind of all of the happenings that fateful night. The reason why we collect the custard in the first game, the second game as well, is to analyze what was put into the genetically modified creatures. The custard has been tampered with. This is what the game is leading us to believe. We are in a secret lair, but somehow the stone Teletubbies are down there. More on them in a bit. They're not stone. They're not made of stone, okay? After solving a pipe puzzle, it's a tongue twister. After finding a few of these custards, Tinky Winky evolves into the form we know they have in the second game after eating one of the infected custards. We somehow manage to outrun them and escape to a cold mountain. Chapter 2. We must pass through harsh terrain. On the other side is the satellite station. After finding traces of custard, hearing voices in the distance, we are knocked out by something big. We wake up in a sort of nest surrounded by remains of what was eaten here. We encounter a droid who is essentially a slave to its master, Unit 437. He cannot escape because the master is too powerful. Unit 437 tells us that we are fated to be food and we must stay. We offer it an escape with us, but the robot refuses. We run through the cold mountain and manage to lose the master. We find our camera and unlock a gate. Now, in a desolate ruin with cracked ground, The biome changes are crazy, but I think it's cool so far that they're paying homage to the third game with all of these similar sets. We stumble upon some custards, and you know us, we gotta get our custard, so we do just that. Unfortunately, we are not alone. Lala is present. Still, again, this is the creepiest design, I think, for any of the enemies. They are blind, so we have to be quiet in this section. I was crouching for a lot of this. I do run around, I got heavy feet in video games, but it seemed like its pathfinding was locked onto me no matter how quiet I was. I don't know, maybe it's just a little bug. I think the easiest way to do this segment is to just keep distance and kind of run around it. It won't really chase you. We see a path, but Lala is blocking it. We collapse pillars onto Lala and then put it out of its misery. I think that was the humane thing to do. Also, like, after getting crushed, it was scuttling like a little bug. Creepy. I don't know. This one freaks me out. We approach the satellite station entrance. After solving a little puzzle, we unlock the door. Chapter 3. Now in the satellite station and the outskirts, we see a plethora of disemboweled Teletubbies. From what our character states, they were workers. We progress forward, but also watch out for the mine. We finally meet one of the workers living, who speaks of a key card necessary to gain access to our objective. We head through a vent. We have strange visions of our former friends, if you could call them that. I think it was more of like a parasocial relationship that we've just gotten as their caretakers. But anyways, our dearest parasocial friends, we're hallucinating about them. After getting the key card and retracing our steps, our good friend Ron is dead. We encounter Dipsy in the main hall, headless and with a chainsaw. We outrun them. The mine from before aids us in Dipsy's defeat. We equip the chainsaw and follow the path. Nunu is down here. Nunu was the one behind the forced evolutionary custard, or infected custard. I've been really into Fallout lately. I'm sorry, it's my bad. The custard forces them to become undead killing machines. Seemingly zombies? It's not really specified. The custard specifically meant for them to be some sort of apex predators. Nunu believes that the Teletubbies are too weak. Nunu, now having access to the mainframe, controls all machines. We are now going head to head against a boss fight? Okay, yes, it is a boss fight with some insane music that I think with all of my heart is copyright, but just trust me, the music is insane. This part of the game, like, it feels like a Metal Gear game, you know? There is a whole dodge mechanic, health that spawns so we don't break our keyboard if we lose. There are 2 phases of the boss, and once we, get him down finally, our character says, "Stay down." Yeah, that was pretty epic. The Guardian calls for military assistance. After exiting, we confront Nunu, but they refuse to stop. Infecting the custard was only the first step of their plan. Now, the new Teletubbies being created already have the virus. They are the newborns. We are offered to join Nunu, but we refuse. Probably a way to get the alternate endings. We see Poe walking towards us like the scene in JoJo, Dio going against like Jotaro. Second boss. I beat this on my first try, but it was quite challenging. The first phase has a rock attack and a sucker punch, which ultimately isn't too bad. The second phase is where shit gets real. Poe evolves into the necromorph we see from the second game. This time he has a grapple, fire, and a shadow attack. I'm not really sure what that is. Blood mist attack? I don't know. The shadow attack is hard as hell to avoid, but keeping a far distance is your best bet to get to the next phase, the third phase. It becomes an eldritch horror, an eldritch insect-like monster, using a fire circle, a silly circle, to force you to keep distance, and a pounce attack. It does have a projectile attack as well, but it seldom uses it. This form is surprisingly the easiest to defeat. Again, speaking to Nunu, they inform us that we have not won. We get one last chance to side and get a super sick visual. We cut Nunu into pieces. The military finally arrives in a vertibird-looking thing. We answer some questions of theirs, and they do not believe that Nunu, a vacuum, created these. They didn't need to make us feel stupid, but whatever. We get a final shot of all the newborns marching. Maybe Nunu was right. Our world will become ash soon. The Guardian says we must fight, and thus ends the campaign. There is a surprising amount to unpack. Before getting any further, what are the other endings? How many are there? We need these to understand what exactly the game is saying and what exactly the game is about. To answer that question, there are 4. Where does the ending siding with Nunu take us? One of 2 ways, actually. The first, we meet with Nunu and Po, Nunu Poo Poo, on the top of a building in a derelict place. This, by the way, is one of the multiplayer maps. Nunu reveals that their plan is underway and the military forces cannot stop their massive numbers. It is revealed that this is the custard facility. It is time for us to turn into one. We do not want to take the custard, but we give in. We are told we are the greatest reborn. A haunting image of the Guardian is shown. The evil ending. Next, in the very same setting, we refuse to take the custard. Po pushes us into the vat of custard below us and we lose our legs. We seem to have evolved a bit more because, like, we're freaking jacked right now. Like, look at that. This is the regretful ending. Lastly, we lose the boss fight with Po in their arachnid form. We see time pass and the military arrive. We are laid out and the military concludes that this happened recently. The newborns begin swarming the military as they begin to open fire. They are very easily overrun. The very last thing said in this ending is God help us. I don't know they worship God, but it's interesting. I don't know. This is the bad ending. Firstly, I want to say I don't know what it is about this game, but it feels reminiscent of Halo 3. You know, like like, I don't know. It'll make more sense when we head over to the multiplayer. The game plays a lot like a Telltale game. There isn't much combat and interacting with objects. This interaction can be a little slow at times. The hitboxes as well on some enemies and chase sequences are very unforgiving. This game, like, seriously went from meme to meaning. Trident, who is a game developer artist in their own right, friend of the channel as well, actually informed me that the models from the game are from an older monster pack from a game engine called First Person Shooter Creator. Specifically the Viral Outbreak model pack. Some, not all of the monster designs were from here, and I think it's crazy to see these designs as like non-Teletubby entities. Tinky Tank was actually not a model used or inspired from Left 4 Dead, but came from an FPSC known as the Dante Beast. The creator of these models is aware that they are Slendytubbies icons, and this is a statement from the creator. I don't know. I think this is a funny interaction. Thank you, Trident. This game seemed to answer almost all of the questions we really had for the series. Nunu, in the perspective of the story, is obviously the bad guy, but what about the Guardian? We are monitoring test subjects who are, you know, essentially our people. Why are we monitoring them? The government seems to conduct experiments on its people. It makes you question not the morals of the Guardian, but of the society that they kind of reside in. What exactly were they monitoring or testing at the mainland facility? We were able to escape past the mountain or, you know, through the cave. That's an alternate route you could take. How come the 4 never thought to do that? Speaking of the cave, who is the master? Now, cave, no, we're not talking Plato's cave. We're talking the literal cave in the game, which actually has a lot more. Both routes have a lot of information, but both routes you need to experience to give yourself the correct amount of context. And there's a lot of context. When in the cave, a note informs us of the Yeti Tubby. He had 2 best friends named Cave Tubby and Arrow Tubby. He also seems to be more intelligent than the other monsters. He uses mimicry to sound in need of help. The unmatched strength of this creature has even this robot servant afraid, a robot that can't outwardly express emotion, afeared. So, on the topic of the robot, what was the point of Unit 437? It's a killbot, tasked with its mission to pursue and kill an experimental subject trying to escape. This means that there were possibly multiple test sites for the Tubbies. More notes in the cave suggest something about the Coatmen? The trio of Tubbies were being overseen by them. The Coatmen. You know, like who are they? This is one of the biggest mysteries in this series. They are known to be devoid of kindness and mercy. One of the notes in the cave speaks of torture, the subjects being physically abused with electricity. The notes themselves, there is no answer to how they entered the cave or got there. Coatman refers to the fact that these might actually be real humans. Perhaps all the humans are not extinct. You know, I was under the guise of this was just ruled by Teletubbies, you know, like maybe, you know, with this knowledge, Nunu was not acting alone. There is actually one humanoid creature in the game, but we will get to that in the bit when we cover the multiplayer. Undeniably, though, there is a connection between the droid and the Coatman, as his primary directive was for them to capture one of the trio. One last thing to note, the Coatmen have to be in positions of insanely high power. The research lab in the military base has tubby custard in it, possibly to research the ingredients to make a cure, or even the original production of the one with viruses in it. On the topic of the orange Teletubby as well, I noticed something interesting about the code on the computer in the Guardian's lair. The code is binary. I'm currently working on a video, Computer Girl 888, where I had to decode some binary. So again, I love that game so much, but again, thank you to the creator for getting me in the headspace to even see that this was, a binary code. The computer says the orange Teletubby must die 3 times. So what exactly does that mean? I think this strengthens the notion that the Coatmen control much more of the structure of society than we first believed. The orange Teletubby is the Aerotubby. I believe that this trio of friends had something really special, or they knew something. They were being tested on for a reason. I believe the Coatmen to control the operation and the military. Even the Guardian is working for them. I think this is all a part of a much larger conspiracy theory. There is also a much larger point to this, but we'll be getting into that after we cover the DLC. Making some further connections as well, the machine was broken in the beginning of the game for the sole purpose of Nunu putting the forced evolutionary virus in there, the Tubby zombification serum. Nunu didn't want to end the world, but take it a step further into evolving them, making them not useless, seemingly cute creatures. We're trying to get something apex. We're strengthening the species. We're moving the evolution forward, but at a great cost. I also really like the fact that we play through so many of the maps in the second game when traversing the land. This solidifies the story so much more, in its care, in its attention to detail, in just a lot of different aspects. You could tell they had fun making this game. Again, mentioning Trident, I played Slendytubbies 2 with him, the multiplayer. This game is way more scary playing with someone than it is alone. There's just something about you and a friend that it's just like, goofy moments going back and forth, and then hearing something that's gonna stain your pants brown. I don't know, this adds so much more tension, and playing these when they came out, playing the multiplayer with people, that must have been so much fun. Lastly as well, Toby's ID card, the ID card you get in the game going throughout the satellite station. This magenta-eyed Teletubby is dead upon encountering him. You acquire a key card revealing the date March 31st, 1997. This was the date that Teletubbies, the original show, was made. I wonder if it could also be a connection to the time. Perhaps this game taking place in the early 2000s, making Toby one of the first batches to ever be created. Maybe it is, just a fun Easter egg, as we already have some theories about who the Adam of the game is. Adam and Eve, Adam and Steve. We'll get into this in a little bit. The game tells us that the story continues on in the multiplayer. So how does it do this? The 2 games are different exe files, and it almost feels like they're separate discs. Again, this game is oddly nostalgic. I'm really unsure how to explain this. Like when you would get a game on your Xbox or PlayStation, and you had 2 discs to put in, and they both had different features. I don't know, something just special about that. Anyway, heading to the customization, we can get hats for collecting custards, and there is a lot to unlock. Another thing that is just so cool is putting URLs to customize your skin. So I indeed customized my skin. I think it looks pretty good. What do you think? There are 21 different maps with different game modes, 5 to be exact. Collection versus survival, infection, and sandbox. The collection mode is standard. You need to play this game mode in particular to unlock the hats. Survival is by far the funnest. It's like COD Zombies, I don't know, God, it's just so fun to just run around aimlessly and just shoot things. That's my comfort, So how does it tie into the story? Well, the collection-based modes are extracting the tubby custard to possibly study it. I'm going to exclude versus and sandbox, as I believe that these are just fun game modes. Infection with friends to show that each mission ends the same, with them eventually succumbing to infection. Same with survival. This continues the story by showing the futile effort to defeat the newborn and advanced infected population. The mutants being far harder to kill than any newborn. In this uphill battle, there is really no hope for their kind. There are also variations of the many creatures you encounter in each game mode. In the zombies mode, it has you fighting newborns along with robots that, likely served Nunu or are a part of that matrix that he now controls all of. There are also bosses of mutated tubbies. In the collection mode, we see different variants of the Guardian as well. One of him willingly possessed, one as the robot, and one cut in half. This allows us to believe that our previous decisions are canon. Everything's canon? How does that make sense? This will most likely be expanded on in the DLC. Now, addressing one of our claims earlier, Ghost Girl is much more important than you think. She is Lala's imaginary friend who manifested. Somehow, she also seems experimented on. Maybe an early trial, this is just a theory, but a way to revive the human race gone wrong. Maybe mutating them by mistake before we got to the Teletubby stage of humanity, I guess, to put it in simple terms. This is just a theory, by the way. Maybe humans went extinct to a similar epidemic the Teletubbies are currently facing. History repeating itself in a very cruel way. A very cruel thesis. A very cruel thesis. What's that a reference to? This character also does have an appearance in Slendytubbies 2D, but we will get more into that in the next part 3. We don't have context for this map just yet, but there is one that is a checkered board dreamscape. A shadowy figure stalks you. I truly do not understand what this is as of right now. The DLC, moving on to the third little disc in our game box. This was made November 17th of 2018 under a new developer named Santikun, or Santiago P, and actually had a little help from the original dev Sean. The game was supposed to be longer than the campaign of 3. The game, however, was never finished. Santikun stated that the toxicity of the community held him back from finishing the DLC, and revealed that they had simply lost passion for the project. It is debated that if the events in the DLC are canon or not, but more on this later. Anyway, let's dive into the DLC. The gameplay is exactly the same to the main game. We are some of the last surviving Teletubbies from this aftermath, specifically 3 months after the events of 3. We play as the Guardian. Our party consists of Sergeant Miles and Annie. The game stresses the importance of dialogue. We have the option to hear our thoughts as well. We do not have a great relationship with Sergeant Miles and have a thing for Annie. We are told to go through a door, and when we do, genuinely horrifying moment. Genuinely terrifying. Already way better horror game is all I'll say for now. We wake up and are asked what happened. The visions we had in the first game are back and much worse, with a shadow-like being stalking us. The sergeant says he has no time for this. Annie does believe that we are having some sort of PTSD attacks. There's a locked door and we have to somehow pick it. We attain a knife from the sergeant, who seems pessimistic over the whole situation. In a box in the room that we were just in, we find a pin. We have a mini game to unlock the door, which I seriously could not tell you how to do it, but I unlocked it. Wow. It unlocked. We have another PTSD attack. We took about 10 minutes to get down the stairs. Then we passed out and woke up after another 10 minutes. At the console, we see the newborn pods. We can finally put an end to this. We try our keycard in the terminal and it rejects. We do not have, really any way to get the information we seek. The Guardian wanting to learn more information about the origins of this world. The sergeant then wants to destroy the machine, but we tell him not to. We do somehow manage to get through to him. The battling ideology is the Guardian wants to experiment on the machine, see if there's some sort of way to revive or continue the production of Teletubbies so their species can continue and not be doomed. Sergeant wants to put an end to this, having a nihilistic view, seeing the world as having no future for its survivors. After debating for a little bit, the team tells us like it was obvious. This is like the big thing. This is the big lore for the game. Humans were going extinct. An epidemic killing the population. Reproduction was no longer an option. The humans invented a machine to reproduce. Something got messed up along the way and we ended up looking like the Teletubbies. The antenna on each of the Tubbies being able to differentiate the race. The reason they were called Teletubbies were for the television on their stomachs. One of our team members radios us that there is an attack. They are being overrun. Presumably, they are dead. There is then feedback that is played on the pocket radio. This makes a newborn wake up from its chamber. After killing it, they all rush us. We attempt to leave the complex, but there are more newborns from where we just came. A final stand commences, and with that, very epically, is the end of the demo. Add these skins to Fortnite. I got the good ending in my playthrough. The other endings are if you let Sergeant Miles destroy the machine, Miles is unconscious. Presumably, it deactivates all the power and everyone dies. Bad ending. The second ending, we again tell Sergeant that he cannot destroy the machine. We miss our timed dialogue option and the machine is destroyed. The Guardian and Miles fight, Annie begging us to stop fighting. A dark screen. As we ask, what happened? We are told to move out. The cornered ending. The final ending has a similar beat. This time though, when the newborn breaks through, we miss our timed action. We become infected. The infected ending. I must say I find it so strange that there are so many different endings or variants for a demo. Taking a look at the website, yes, this game is canon. So that means the only canon ending of the third game is the good ending. The argument that took place on the bottom floor of the complex is probably the most integral to the story. Something not integral to the story is the figurines found on the shelf. Originally, I thought this was Markiplier and like a different YouTuber, but it turns out that this is Sean and Santikun placed in the game, which, you know, I think is a really cool testament to their friendship, passion for the project. There is a lot more that happens with this little duo that is going to be saved for the next episode, but I will be building on this in this video in a little bit. Going back in about the shadowy creature we mentioned a few times earlier, what is this? I believe this to tie into Slendytubbies 1 and 2. We covered in part 1. We get flashes of constantly seeing dead bodies. At first I thought that, this was just a jump scare, and probably that was the prime intention of it at the time, but now it's being angled as this is something a little bit more than PTSD. The Slendytubbies are not quite zombies. They're killing machines engineered with a virus that alters their form of being. With Slendy also in the name of the game, I believe this to be psychological warfare. The creature's presence when near it, it slowly whittles down mental blocks in your mind, slowly bringing you to insanity. I believe the shadow to be a collection of that negative energy, or even a more powerful entity, being Tubby, than we have ever seen. In this, whatever Nunu was controlling, this thing might be the one in control. Lala served as some sort of prophet, having dreams about the girl, maybe even encountering this thing too. The dreamscape is briefly mentioned in Chapter 0 of the campaign. It seems like, and apocalyptic happenings in this world, it was really headed to the end. However, them both being Lala's vision, I believe them to be connected in some way. Building on Santikun, he is a translator for the ZeroWorks team, or rather was. He terminated his time with Slendytubbies in 2019 with the cancellation of the Apocalypse DLC. From a GameJolt article, we can find that he is still part of the team, but is done with Slendytubbies. The amount of stress from the game and maybe what he was getting from the community at the time, it must have been insane. He was also nicknamed the Bandmaster. It seems too that some parts of the community are toxic, some behaving like children when the game didn't come out fast enough. Some even saying that they didn't like the direction of the DLC. Going back to the main point, remember the orange Teletubby? In the cinematic, talking about the human extinction, the orange Teletubby is shown. The knowledge of this might be a connection. Was the orange Teletubby the original Teletubby? The Adam of the Teletubbies. Adam Tubby. I don't know how many jokes I could milk out of this. The first created and somehow immortal. It is interesting to think about. Perhaps he was a part of the Coatmen? Maybe even someone who simply wanted to live out his days but became a part of the government's experiments. Whatever it is, I don't think it is a coincidence, especially when we saw another similar drawing in the cave that connects to the cinematic. Just food for thought. It would be very interesting if it was a government defect. Though living in a cave and seeking peace, it seems like they were running away from something and are highly integral to the plot. Just something of interest as well. The character Poe hung themselves in the first and the second game, but that was changed in Slendytubbies 3 to Tinky Winky killing everyone. Something else that's very interesting that wasn't brought into the DLC, but might have been if it saw the light of day and wasn't just a demo. The outcome of the base game would have dictated the way that your DLC game started. This sounds so ambitious. It would have really been cool to see though. There is also a segment that would have shown Dipsy in a flashback. It would have shown us how he lost his hat and was actually able to meet the Guardian. This flashback was partially shown in a live stream, but that is currently lost media. The Slendytubbies lore doesn't stop here. There was a 3-part miniseries on the game. Yes, that is right, a little miniseries. The series is set to continue after the Guardian collection is made. The series as of right now is just solely 3 parts, but it is set to continue after the Guardian collection is made. More on what the Guardian collection is in the next part. The 3 episodes, however, take place right after the events of, assumably, the good end of the base game. Lieutenant Finn and Captain Richard receive a distress signal from an abandoned old fortress. The signal turns out to be a fake when they are swarmed with newborns. When trying to fall back, Finn dies presumably, and they continue their escape until encountering a newborn general. In part 2, we open on Miles from the DLC and a new character named Connor. They are trying to find the source of the newborns with the Guardian. Anne joins Miles with a group to fight off the newborns until finding a mutated one called the Scorpion Newborn. The mutant newborn is too strong and strikes Annie down in a retreat. In the helicopter, Dutch, another new character, is comforting the Guardian. Miles and Annie are okay. You got it. But are trying to signal the base for help when they realize there is an interference. Some time passes. The Guardian wants a weapon, but they all assure him that he is safe. At the military base, we are looking for Captain Richard, but he is gone. We meet Lenny. He seems to be in charge of the worker tubbies. He informs us about Richard's squad at the abandoned fortress, as well as comms being down. Part 3, the finale, trying to fix the communication. This task is now up to the Guardian. Lenny chases Gary for a knife. This is like the opening scene of the episode. I do not necessarily understand this. I feel like it's an inside joke. I don't know. The comms remain down, and they are not able to communicate with the outside world. Lenny is quite an oddball character. The Guardian informs him on how this all happened. On our way, we hear a newborn, but are told not to worry about it. Miles and Annie are on a mission of their own as they find a secret center in the satellite station, wondering if they can contact the military base from there. Dutch heads to the old fortress on a rescue mission. Upon getting there, he finds a war-torn battlefield with the remains of Finn on the ground. Richard is somehow undamaged. In this fiasco, we find the newborns have a plan to attack the military base itself. Richard, however, when heading back to the vertibird, shoots Dutch, assumably killing him so that the others will not be informed. Upon looking this up on YouTube, the series has 3 canon parts, but it is a 12-part series. A fan has carried the torch for the series to expand on it and not leave us with so many questions. This is something that we're not going to be covering in this video, but if you are interested in us covering it, please do leave a comment down below. We cannot say that anything after part 3 is canon, obviously. ZeoWorks has not given an official statement about it. I think these are so solid. These, again, remind me of Halo machinimas. The first episode is not voice acted, and it feels straight from the early 2010s. Though they were made in 2020 as a celebration for ZeoWorks hitting 70K on YouTube. Now they're at 200K. Big congrats on that. The main takeaway from the series is how different Miles acts, which is a testament to the statements exchanged in the DLC. Another is that Lenny definitely knows more about what's going on than he leads. He may be eccentric, but this ties into our government theory very well on how there are people in power pulling all the strings. All in all, the third game in the DLC had a lot of discussion in the community. To me, the third game was more of an action game than a story. It served its purpose in making every aspect of the first 2 games fit oh so perfectly. The multiplayer as well needs people to play with to make matches feel less liminal and empty. The DLC exceeded in its horror aspects and got a decent amount of story in as well, but almost feels like an exposition dump rather than a discovery. I like the new characters it introduced, the tension. I think both of the games are self-aware of what they are. The community disagreed with some of these aspects for a reason. So what about the community? We have covered 4 of the 11 games in the series, and this community, it has seen controversy, and the games evolved in ways that you couldn't possibly imagine. Interested? Find out in part 3. Well, what did you guys think? Slendytubby 3? Slendytubby D's? Nuts? Got him. I got you. If you guys have any thoughts, ideas, opinions, or any theories on what the story is actually about, do feel free to leave a comment down below. Also down there is the big like, the big smackaroo. Give the video a like if you truly did enjoy the video. There's another button down there. Ah, yes. The big red. The big subscribe button. Pick up a backpack. Become a backpacker today. And with that, my name is Backpack Comics, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye. Have a nice night.